After 65, something subtle but important happens inside the body, and most people aren't told clearly enough what it is. It's not that the body suddenly becomes fragile, it's that it becomes more honest. When you're younger, the body absorbs excess. It compensates, it recovers quietly. You can overstimulate it, dehydrate it, stress it, and it finds a way to return to balance. But with age, the body stops hiding the cost. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means the margin for error narrows. Small daily choices begin to matter more, not because they're dangerous, but because they accumulate. Doctors see this shift constantly. Patients come in describing vague discomforts. I don't sleep like I used to. I feel tired but not sick. My heart feels fine, but something feels off. I wake up anxious for no clear reason. Tests come back normal, nothing alarming shows up, and yet something is clearly different. That's because the issue isn't disease, it's tolerance. This is where the conversation becomes delicate, because the drink doctors warn about isn't exotic, it isn't rare, it isn't something bad people consume, it's common, it's woven into daily life. It's often associated with routine, comfort, and social connection. Many people over 65 don't even describe it as a habit. They describe it as part of who they are. I've always had this. My parents drank it. It's how I start my day. It helps me relax. And that emotional connection matters. Doctors understand this. That's why they don't begin with warnings. They begin with questions. How do you feel after drinking it? Do you notice any changes later in the day? What time do you usually have it? Because timing matters more now than quantity. One of the biggest changes after 65 happens in the nervous system. It becomes more sensitive to stimulation, more reactive to spikes, slower to return to calm. This isn't weakness, it's a protective adjustment. The body becomes more cautious with signals that say, be alert, be ready, stay awake, stay stimulated. And this is where the drink begins to matter. Not because it's toxic, but because it sends signals the aging nervous system no longer interprets the same way. What once felt energizing now feels unsettling. What once felt relaxing now disrupts sleep later. What once passed unnoticed now leaves a trace. Doctors notice this pattern repeatedly. People don't feel worse immediately after drinking it. They feel worse hours later or at night. And by then, the connection feels distant. At this point, many people begin to suspect what the drink might be. But doctors don't frame it as good or bad. They frame it as, is this still serving you the way it once did? Because after 65, the body doesn't need constant stimulation. It needs steadiness. This drink, especially when consumed daily, gently pushes the system in the opposite direction. It increases baseline alertness. It elevates stress hormones. It interferes with hydration signals. It lingers longer in the system than people realize. And the liver, which processes this drink, works more slowly now. What used to clear quickly stays. Doctors are not warning against this drink because it's inherently harmful. They warn against it because after 65, caffeine behaves differently in the body. And yes, this includes coffee, tea, and other common caffeinated drinks. Not everyone needs to eliminate it, but many people benefit from reconsidering how and when they consume it. After 65, caffeine stays longer in the bloodstream. It affects sleep even when consumed early. It increases subtle anxiety. It raises resting heart rate. It interferes with deep hydration, and the body no longer balances it out overnight. The reason this goes unnoticed is simple. The effects are delayed. You drink it in the morning. You feel fine, maybe even better. But the cost appears later. Restless sleep, shallow rest, early waking, afternoon fatigue, unexplained tension. People blame age. They blame stress. They blame sleep quality. Rarely do they blame the drink because it feels innocent. Doctors aren't asking people to give it up completely. They're asking people to listen, to experiment, to adjust timing, to reduce dependency. Some discover that half the amount feels better. Others find switching to decaf helps. Some realize they were drinking it out of habit, not desire. And many notice improvements within weeks. Deeper sleep, calmer mornings, steadier energy, less tension. Not because caffeine was bad, but because the body no longer needed it in the same way. This conversation isn't about rules. It's about respect for the body you have now. You've lived long enough to know that longevity isn't about extremes. It's about adjustment. And sometimes the smallest adjustments create the biggest sense of relief, especially when they honor comfort without sacrificing balance. At a certain stage in life, wisdom stops being about adding more things. It becomes about removing what no longer fits. After 65, the body isn't asking for intensity. It's asking for clarity, for rhythms that feel steady, not urgent, for days that don't push, but support. That's why this conversation matters. Not because one drink defines your health, but because it reveals something deeper. How gently or aggressively we treat our own system without realizing it. Many people don't notice the moment their body stops asking for stimulation and starts asking for calm. It doesn't announce it loudly. It whispers through sleep, through tension, through fatigue that doesn't quite make sense. And when you listen closely, the message is surprisingly kind. It doesn't say, stop everything. It says, adjust, a smaller amount, a different timing, a pause to see how you feel without it. And for many, that pause becomes a quiet revelation. Mornings feel less rushed. Thoughts feel less scattered. Sleep becomes deeper. Not perfect, but honest. Energy feels more even, less forced. Not because something was wrong, but because something finally aligned. Doctors don't warn to frighten. They warn to invite awareness. Because after 65, awareness becomes one of the most powerful tools for longevity. It's no longer about chasing youth. It's about protecting peace. And peace shows up in small decisions. What we consume, how we start our mornings, how gently we treat our nervous system. This isn't about giving something up. It's about choosing what supports the version of you that exists now, not the one you were decades ago. A version that deserves calm mornings, clear nights, a body that feels like home, not a project. If this reflection resonated with you, it's likely because you've already noticed these changes, even if you didn't have words for them yet. And that awareness is where real longevity begins. Not in strict rules, not in fear, but in understanding. There are many other everyday habits that quietly shift after 65. Not because they're wrong, but because the body evolves. Some affect sleep, some affect the heart, some affect memory and mood. And all of them deserve the same respectful conversation. Because aging well isn't about avoiding life, it's about learning how to live it more gently. One adjustment at a time, without pressure, without guilt, just clarity. And clarity, after all, is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves as time moves forward.